Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former World Champion Zerg in the red, the Executioner. It's Rogue. Up against the most creative Terran out there, the Admiral. We have GuMiho in a best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg duel with two players who reject the metagame and substitute their own. So for some semblance of consistency to start things off, I'd like to ask you to smash that like button. And maybe even subscribe. And Jimmy? Jimmy, what are we at? 1,508 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways. I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. GuMiho, don't you know we're supposed to build a Reaper first? Well, I did say they like to chart their own course, and the Admiral certainly more than most. As he starts off with a Marine to deny scouting. Rogue on the other side, not embracing the more modern gasless style, but instead just straight up Zergling speed. Pulls entirely off of gas, makes sure he has his third. Probably a little weirded out by how much he's not getting harassed in the workplace right now by a Reaper. But it's going to be Reactored Factory Hellions, and no third command center from GuMiho. Rushing his way to, I'm going to assume, Cloak Banshees, but there's always a bit more opportunity for tech past that point, but I dare not dream of Battlecruisers. Banshee Cloak on the way, barracks behind, Hellions heading in, and there was, I don't think, any warning here at all, as no Overlords were directly on the path. Yeah, they can't even see the Hellions coming out. Though maybe the Zergling at the Watchtower? Yeah, the Zergling at the Watchtower can see it. So the Queen's getting into position to politely yet firmly ask those Hellions to move along. And they will do so for now. But, wait, sir? This is private property! I don't... Yeah, serves you right. Brenda, just... GuMiho tries to gamble on it, thinking Rogue may be getting a bit greedy, seeing no Reaper early, but Rogue is more than ready, with plenty of Zerglings. He's gonna dart in again. Already 42 drones behind. While there might be Cloak Banshees, here in Amygdala, well, air units have a relatively easy time, but ground units have to go all the way around, including the Zerg rocks, which bleed out at 8 minutes, though very technically, Zerg players can creep them and keep them from bleeding out, which is a bit of an interesting exchange, though I don't think most players would want to do so. Zergs rarely want to be the ones making more difficult choke points for themselves. Banshee Cloak is done. He uses the cloak, but there's a Spore already in position. Coming in with the Hellions. A bit of a mixed bag here. That Spore Crawler, the Banshee, a strong gust of wind away from death. The Hellions just run right by. The Banshee knocked out of the sky, but the Hellions get by as well. Drones, so far, that's spread. Can't believe it's not butter. It's more of a grilling, though. Has 8 drones dead. He's not quite done yet, though. The Zergling should be roasted. More taken down. Hellions finally clawed to death, but that was real damage. Getting 8 drones and forcing out another round of Zerglings, honestly kind of panic Zerglings there out of Rogue, means that GuMiho is in a pretty comfortable position. Killing more than 5 drones before 50 is way more impactful than killing even like 20 when they're at 75. As it's the stage of the economy where it's just now growing. He's investing in drones. The larva count is, what is that? Okay, shut up. GuMiho's gonna mech Terran great again. Hypershees. Hyperflight Speed Banshees. Okay, well, here we go. GuMiho ground out a little bit of space for himself, and he's going to use as much of it as possible to get those Banshees into a good position. Speed Banshees, only mutas, and technically Zerglings, but that's not really relevant, are faster. The Speed Banshees are so incredibly annoying to deal with, but they're also very fragile. He's going full Battle Mech Hell Clone. Magfield Accelerator is already on the way to increase the damage of that Cyclone lock-on by 50% and give them some cool red lasers. Meanwhile, 8 more drones dead as the Hellions come in for another roasting, lighting up some more and pulling away before the Queens are able to respond. The Banshees in the main even before Hyperflight is done. He just keeps building Banshees. The Industrial Revolution is happening back at GuMiho's base. He's going up to 5 factories at about the same time, maybe a little later than you'd be building barracks. One of the Banshees gets knocked out of the sky by the Spore Crawler, which is not the ideal usage of a Banshee, but the Hellions getting caught. A wraparound from the Zerglings. And get off my creep. They killed 10 drones, Brenda. Well, all the more reason they should get off the creep. Oh, okay. Blue Flame on the way. The mech armor upgrade, which applies to all mech units, including the Banshees. And considering he's going to be focused on Blue Flame Hellions and Magfield Accelerator Cyclones, really getting weapons upgrades is not that relevant, because the Blue Flame is just a flat damage increase against light units, and Magfield is a flat damage increase in general. And since the Cyclone Lock-On is a spell of sorts, it goes right through the armor, and weapon upgrades do not benefit it. The Hypershees, one of the downsides of the Hyperflight Banshees is how fast they are and their acceleration. They take a little while to speed up and slow down, so it's very easy to go a little bit too far and fly right into the Spore Crawlers, which you have to be very careful of, especially at this tenuous stage of the game. GuMiho with 69 SCVs, giving him a nice baseline economy to start things off. He should know this is a Changeling, because right now GuMiho has no Marines in his army, with the Changelings hiding behind the Cyclone, so far successfully. Burrow Move Roaches are on the way, as the Hypershees will chase down some of the more conventional ones. As soon as Tunneling Claws is done, he will spot. They have their little fancy horns on the top of the Roaches, if you don't already have them pre-burrowed. Meanwhile, another group of Hell Clones and a Raven don't even need scans. GuMiho joining the elite club of Terrans who will build a Raven in non-TVT matchups. And also, not to just harass probes in the back of the mineral line against Protoss. But I digress. Rogue already has Hive done. He's working on Vipers, which are an existential threat to any mech army. Especially since GuMiho is just skipping the Ghosts. Entirely. He has 1 barracks, no Ghost Academy, and no inclination towards those more conventional late-game units. Who's the more mobile player now? You'd usually think the Zerg, but Hyperflight Banshees, Hellions, Raven, and Cyclones are about as mobile as a Terran army can ever get. Tunneling Claw is now done. GuMiho adding some siege tanks in, because he has to have some sort of defense to backstop to. The siege tanks are an insurance policy, because eventually, as time goes on, Rogue can tailor his unit composition better and better to deal with it. He can get Infestors, Lurkers. The Vipers are already a good call, so having the siege tanks in order to do a more dedicated push, I think he knows. Alright, well, the Tunneling Claws Roaches, but now multiple tanks, the door is shut, and who's flanking who? Whom's flanking? Okay, who is flanking whom? No, wait, that's still... Moving on. Rogue up to 77 drones. GuMiho has a supply advantage as a mech Terran, which is never a great sign for the Zerg, but Rogue has been able to hold on to most of his bases. He's getting his upgrades together. Lurker Den is on the way. Now Muscular Swell for Hydra Lunge, which I think limited use here, but could find some opportunities. And more is he making battery packs on those Evo chambers? I believe he is. I guess you could use 2 more Evos as well, but I think those are for the Vipers to sip on for a while. GuMiho has a 4th base, adding more command centers. Vipers are on the way. Another starport. Knocks out some overlords. 5 Hypershees. Enough to easily take out queens, contest hydras, take out spores, but not so many he's entirely reliant on them. They're immensely vulnerable to parasitic bomb, and if they ever stray too close to the pack of hydras, they may very well get taken down. 3 siege tanks at a time. What's the unit composition looking like? We got 14 siege tanks, 15 Hellbats, Cyclones, Hellions, the Fixins on the way. But A Spire for Rogue, matching the Fusion Core. And if I know GuMiho, that's not for advanced ballistics. He's calling in the fleet. The Admiral yet again in the center of the map knocks out one of the Vipers, the other one in the deep red as the siege tanks begin shelling at the gold base down the center. The Hyper She's actually dragged much of the army back and Rogue completely out of position to defend this base. 8 drones dead. I think he just killed the Spores, and that's why so many of the Banshees are dead. But down goes the hatchery. Viper, Blinding Cloud, just one siege tank. Anti-armor missile on the Hydras will soften them up dramatically. But there's really not that much army to follow up. Gets into the main base in position to harass even more of the drones, and he's leading the Hydras into the siege tanks. There's still quite a bio ball here out of the Zerg, though. The siege tanks dead. Hydras lunge forward and are able to chase down most of this. Retreating behind the lines. 2 more command centers done. Anti-armor missile Dorito does the field. Hyper She's still going to work. I'm not sure if he spotted the Spire, nor am I sure if he cares. The SCV's getting the group hug on the Planetary, and without Banelings or Lurkers to break through, the Planetary will hold. And with it, GuMiho still in a strong position. 2-2 upgrades for either side. Mech weapons for GuMiho, missile attacks for Rogue. Hydra's chasing down. Why is there a barracks here? Command center going off to the corner. Lunges towards the command center and knocks it out of the sky before it can retreat into the corner of the map. Hyper She, 19 kills. Who knows how many its brothers or sisters or fellow Banshees got. A Battlecruiser has entered the production tab, and now siege tanks looking very strong. He's got 16 of them, which is kind of a liability at this stage. 2 Battlecruisers on the way. The Raven is still intact. Oh, that's a lot of Vipers right there. He's got like 6 Vipers. Yanks in a tank. There are no ghosts. Rogue exploiting that very obvious fact here, as the ghosts would have made their appearance a long while ago. But GuMiho is committed. Not no Ghost Academy, instead Battlecruisers. Though he hasn't yet researched Yamato Cannon, which I think is just a straight-up oversight. And I imagine once the Battlecruisers are done, or soon to it, he will realize. The Roach Hydra coming through the center. Hellions into the third, into the natural. Gonna incinerate 14 drones instantaneously. Those mech weapon upgrades combined with Blue Flame, creating quite a hot and heavy environment. 24, oh my, wow. Rogue's economy going up in flames. He's down to 60 drones, and only because he's rebuilding them as they get killed off. But this is a lot of production cycles wasted on rebuilding the drones, while GuMiho replaces those Hellions with Battlecruisers and Cyclones. About the most powerful campaign mission-looking mech army you could ever have. And now, a Broodlord Den is on the way. The Greater Spire is halfway done. No Corruptors yet, in order to morph into them. The Roach is still looking for something. The bottom right corner has not yet been taken. Interference is he going to use Ravens to Interference Matrix Vipers? GuMiho. Oh, Gumi bro. As the Mule Canyon is dug into the income tab. They don't mine more on the gold base, unlike regular SCVs, but they do mine more than regular SCVs, and that is reflected pretty dramatically. As the Battlecruisers, did they jump? No, they just floated across as they do. What are you gonna do, abduct? Yanks it over, but he can just jump away. He does! Gets knocked out of the sky the first one, and the Queen burrowed in order to avoid it. So the first Battlecruiser is not a resounding success, but still going to dictate the pace of the next fights. And GuMiho's army is incredibly scary right now. Even for a Zerg with Vipers, 18 siege tanks, 5 Battlecruisers, a handful of clones to help with the Vipers, and a Raven. Just the one Raven. But just Roach Hydra is going to have a very tough time with this. He can yank in some of it. Anti-armor missile doesn't end up goading too much. Another Raven. I don't know if he's looking to chase the Battlecruiser Roach defense team. Does he have any ship weapons upgrades? No, not yet. He's working on it. Meanwhile, GuMiho. The battlecruisers strafing the roaches. The roaches have +3 carapace, but the withering fire of the battlecruisers is too much for them. 14 corruptors on the way. Four more factories. He's gonna, what? A dozen factories. 4 starports. 5 orbital commands. A partridge and a pear tree, I think, are next on the agenda. But the battlecruisers, they're gonna try to jump away. One of them escapes. I think he's interrupting some of the Yamatos. A bit of an awkward exchange. Parasitic bomb, not incredibly helpful, but still technically does damage. Anti-armor missile from the Raven, a parting shot. Rogue is starting to stabilize, though. He's got 5 Broodlords on the way, now researching Neural Parasite. But GuMiho pressing on the ground. Going to try to take out that top left corner base. The battlecruiser is joining up with the siege tanks. The SCVs for repair underneath. The Corruptor's looking for... There's really not that much anti-air on the ground. The Cyclones are helpful, but he's going to try to knock the battlecruisers out directly. Might get one, but wow. I may have underestimated the power of the Cyclones and battlecruisers here, especially when combined with anti-armor missile. There are no carapace upgrades in the sky, which means the Corruptors can't really handle the rapid-fire laser batteries. A couple battlecruisers badly bruised, but much more of them in full repair. He easily took out the top left corner. The Broodlords are grinding forward. Yanks in battlecruisers towards the Hydras and Corruptors. Broodlord still raining down. Siege tanks mostly targeted onto the Hydras, it looks like, not using the Broodlords against themselves. And GuMiho survives the fight with a supply lead, takes out the hatchery, and keeps most of his key units intact. Several of the battlecruisers went down, but I think they served their purpose, and now Rogue just keeps rebuilding Corruptors. There are 17 Corruptors. Of course, he could transfer them into Broodlords. But, well, now we're in a bit of an odd scenario. The battlecruiser pre-jumps to the bottom right corner. He's going back to battle mech. As the economy is kind of, it's a very fluid situation. A situation that calls for units that can move around quickly, as opposed to ones that are such a large investment. The battlecruisers and siege tanks broke through, and they limited Rogue's economy. And now the Cyclones and Hellions can keep him busy for long enough to maybe lay down the killing blow. But Rogue now has lurkers. He has so many Vipers. The lack of ghosts is really going to show here. The Corruptors just hanging out, drawing some fire from the Cyclones. Not that that's necessarily a good thing. Not a single 4 has been produced yet for GuMiho. I say yet because it seems like the natural progression. Even 2 Broodlords over top of the siege tanks is an existential threat with this many lurkers on the ground to zone out. Mass Raven is going to be the choice. 3 more Ravens on the way. He is dedicated to his ghostless mech composition, and the Ravens may be the ticket, but he's just carving out so much of the map, yanking in the tank, slicing them up, and wiping them out. But another hatchery is dead, annexed by the mech army. Rogue keeps himself alive, but he's doing very little to actually regain this position on the map. GuMiho now has enough money in the bank to rebuild most of his army. I can't help but think Rogue is sliding downwards towards disaster. He needs to turn it around soon, but I'm not actually sure what. He made 6 Vipers. I don't know if there are any... Are there any infestors? No. He may need them momentarily. Yanks in even more tanks. The Vipers are getting a lot of value, but the Cyclones are making them pay the price for it as well. Another hit squad of Ravens, Cyclones, and Hellions. There are 4 lurkers there. Will he try it? Well, the reinforcements come in. I think Rogue just remembered Hydra Dash. Anti-armor missile trails on the way out, and a mech army over to the north side. The chase is on. I think it's GuMiho outflanking Rogue's Zerg army. Another anti-armor missile. A constant coating across most of the Zerg. It doesn't help the Cyclones out that much, but it generally makes everything more fragile. And now, as the lurker count grows again, GuMiho's going back to Battlecruisers. He's making 8 siege tanks at a time. What is this? Like, Lend-Lease level production. Thors are on the field. Rogue has had a larger army supply, and I think he's had that for quite a while, but he just can't find a fight. GuMiho is still holding the northern side. He's now mining from both corners. Well, that was true as of this second, which gives him 3/4 of a bingo strategy. Rogue's main is entirely mined out. He's only got, like, 1.5 bases left. Not that GuMiho is a massive bank right now. He certainly is in a bit of an awkward position, but the Broodlords unable to close the distance. The Cyclones lock on. One of the Broodlords gets taken down. The Vikings mostly uncontested. Lurkers looking for an opportunity. These are orbitals. Over to the 9 o'clock and the 11 or so. Lurkers looking to dunk down. GuMiho's supply is plummeting. He just lost 30 SCVs. The mech army closing in from both sides, but the siege tanks will get cleaned up. And Rogue almost takes out an orbital command before GuMiho's able to lift it. And now, there is a planetary in the bottom right corner, but he just full-on retreats, knowing he's not going to be able to hold it. GuMiho doesn't actually have building armor or high-sec auto-tracking, but he does have 12 Hellions producing at a time. But Rogue has taken the supply... Okay, I take it back. He just made another round. Rogue's army supply is still quite healthy, but his army composition is looking less and less so. Weren't there 2 more Battlecruisers? He may have canceled them, or they maybe jumped in and just got taken out. There are no more Spellcasters, no more Vipers. Most of the tanks are unsieged. 1 Broodlord remains, dashes forward. And the Hydras are taking out most of the Thors. The siege tank count is cut down, but the rest are sieged on the back line. He's gonna try to take down 2 more Thors. Burrows forward, GuMiho and Rogue supply plummeting. But it's pretty clear where we're trending. As GuMiho pounds the point home. At the end of the game, GuMiho still has like 3 or 4 mining locations. Rogue is effectively broke. And GuMiho, of course, can drop mules. Rogue still battles it out to great effect, but just not great enough. 12 Battlecruisers, 25 tanks. What a brutal game on both sides. Almost 100,000 resources lost in less than 25 minutes, which is some pretty easy math to say that an absolute bloodbath happened here. But GuMiho, it feels like a matter of principle, not just a strategy, but also a principle. I don't need ghosts. I don't want ghosts. I have ravens. Though he never used the ravens to interference matrix the Vipers, I think that is partly because the Vipers were dead by the time he had more ravens out. So there is that. Game 2 on Abyssal Reef, though. Rogue's chance to turn it around. And honestly, it got a little closer at the end than I thought it would. As... What are you doing, GuMiho? The low ground. Interesting. Got a little closer than I thought it would, because the mech army composition, especially without those ghosts, is quite brittle. You have the right units. You don't have a sort of catch-all unit like the Marine, or the Ghost, I guess. So, if you're caught without enough anti-air to deal with Broodlords, or enough anti-ground to deal with Lurkers, things can go sideways real fast. And GuMiho almost found that out the hard way. But the economic damage was done throughout the match. I think that was a very key part of keeping Rogue busy until GuMiho had, come on, 12 factories? What is it? That is an obscene amount. You don't even... When was the last time you saw 12 barracks? Let alone 12 factories. And he actually made use of them, I think, as a matter of principle to an extent. But like 8 siege tanks and 4 Hellions at a time. It's going to be 2 racks Reaper. It's an older build now, but it still checks out. As GuMiho mixing it up in game 2. He is on the side of the map where the add-ons are potentially exposed, though that is a long way off. First, Rogue has to scout it and then decide to deal with it that way. That can also be a bit of a bait as well. Some players won't even bother doing this sort of build if their add-ons are on the wrong side, which is, in this case, the right side. But GuMiho not shying away from it. First Reaper coming across. We'll see how many he ends up with. 3 to 5 is your usual number here. But it depends a little bit on whether you're able to get any early damage done. If it's clear they're not going to have Zergling speed, you definitely want to keep building the Reapers until it feels unsafe. But in this case, Rogue not being stingy, he's going to have the speed on the way. Queen is about to pop out, and that third hatchery, the drone is running away to avoid any Reapers that might sneak in. Queen pops out. Reaper, 1 knitting needle away from death. Scouting for the third. 2 command centers on the way for GuMiho back at home. So, certainly not dependent on the Reapers for critical damage early. Just keeping him busy. Comes back in. And the drone will be able to get the third. Knows the Reapers are on the other side of the map, so he'll have enough time to actually get some health on the third base so the Reapers can't take it out. Now, will GuMiho just go for a siege tank? He's in position. Ah, it's for the Hellions. Smooth transition. Kept it warm for you. Slimy. Sits down on the reactor. Rogue just building up. Not interested in doing any sort of big bust or all in. The Reapers come back home. The Overlord spots it. So we will have a much more bio-oriented sort of game here. Though with GuMiho, it's not necessarily a guarantee that will stay that way. Stim is in production. And the Overlord will get everything there is to see. Now, he doesn't know that for sure. He's not going to see the very... Well, if he can actually see behind the mineral line for even a split second, there could be an armory. There could be a starport or something back there. He doesn't have that particular info, but he's got most of the beat. He knows there's a third base. He knows there's reactored Hellions, which is enough to draw some conclusions. And a Baneling nest is the response. He may think there's an armory back there for Hellbats. It's not a bad idea to have a Baneling nest, but it is an abundance of caution, I think, in this sort of stage. The Hellions. The rocks. Actually, looks like some Zerglings were nibbling on them for a while. Another barracks on the way. Single engineering bay. So it looks like GuMiho lining up for a relatively quick starport timing with those medevacs and marines. Maybe combine with some Hellbats eventually. But Lair's now on the way for Rogue, who's at 55 drones. He was able to get past 50 drones without suffering critical damage, which is always a great start. Double Evo chamber now as well. So shaping up into quite a heavy macro build out of Rogue, and a bit more of a mixed bag for GuMiho. There's the +1 infantry weapons, as well as 2 medevacs, the most relevant point of all this. Zergling gets in. We'll see. Yeah, well, he got most of the relevant info. Actually walling up. He's got like an airlock system going on. Opening up the rocks, he'll probably wall up. Already pre-walling behind it. Well, here we go. No armory on the way. But here comes the siege tank marine push quite early on. Rogue is researching baneling speed, which is going to be an incredibly important component of defending against this. But he's got a lot of creep. Brenda, call everyone. We're going to have to deal with this ourselves. Susan, we're already here. Oh my god. Are you okay? No, she's not okay. Sorry. Oh, 10 SCVs dead. Zergling counterattack. And the timing is great. He can come back around and maybe take out the siege tank as well. Rogue backstabbing at the perfect time. Quite an ambush. And now, can he come up with a finisher? 12 SCVs dead. GuMiho does not have any sort of big follow-up here. He just has this army and this army only. He's pumping out Marines, medevacs. He's got +1 attack on the way, but only 1 upgrade at a time. GuMiho already in a bit of an awkward position going into the early mid-game. Hydralisk Den is on the way. Why is the Hydra Den over here, Rogue? Why is it just... It's a bold move. Hydra Den in the most vulnerable possible location. I guess it's not at the very front, but still. The Reaper Hellion chasing down the Zergling counterattack and doing quite a good job of cleaning it up. GuMiho needs to get something done now, as things are spiraling out of control. Rogue has 75 drones. He's going to have 1-1 upgrades. He's already got Bane speed. It's not going to get any easier for GuMiho here if he doesn't get damage done now. The Lings and Banes caught between a rock and a hard place, demonstrating why he tried to take down those rocks earlier. The Baneling nest itself can be targeted, and he will... Oh my. The Banelings are getting too close. And the siege tanks, he's just jumping on top. 1-1 finishes mid-fight, drops into the main, but the Hydras, GuMiho scrambling on both sides, somehow manages to salvage a decent situation out of it. His supply still pretty healthy considering everything. His army supply is still greater than his opponent, but Rogue has the upgrades done, and he's producing with 4 hatcheries, 5 hatcheries of economy. A mule drops to maybe repair the tank or demonstrate his superiority. I'm pretty sure it was the first one. But the queens are closing in. No more banelings because the baneling nest was taken out, but the replacement is already built. A couple liberators on the way, but GuMiho... Well, the Marines able to gun down. Still an awkward angle to fight at, but the Liberator going to be flanked on both sides. And GuMiho forced to retreat yet again, and Rogue is just chasing down the Marines. I don't see any real options for GuMiho to regain the initiative, and clearly GuMiho does not either. Game 2 goes to Rogue with a decisive victory. A bit of a tough one there for Gumi, bro. A slight bit of a Gumi throw, but I'm sure Gumi knows exactly what went wrong and hopefully how to fix it. It's time to Gumi go to game number 3. Ley lines will be the map. All tied up. Rogue in the top right, GuMiho bottom left. They've switched colors again just for dramatic effect, but you should be able to tell the difference. Not sure exactly. GuMiho committed. He went for the Threepers and then just kind of sat on them for a while. It's one of the... It feels like you need to get something more done. You need to kill some Lings, you need to force out more Queens, deny the third. But if you just kind of sit back and build Marines after it, it much of the time feels like you're just doing a Marine timing, but later. Which most Zergs are quite experienced in dealing with, and Rogue more than most. I'll see what he chooses to do here. He's very intent on building one of these drones is going over there, yeah. Gas and pool. Has been going for speed. No gasless mass economy builds. Making sure he has Zergling speed by the time any sort of shenanigans can come across the map. Which is quite a conservative opener nowadays, but it's been working out for him. Rogue, one of the longest running Zerg players in StarCraft 2 history. There aren't, unlike Terrans, like Beyond and GuMiho, there aren't too many Zergs from the early days of Wings of Liberty that are still playing. Many of them went back to the Brood War. But I'm trying to think. Well, besides Rogue, Dongray Gu is still playing some, but not super actively. Solar's been around for quite a while, but I'm not sure if he was an early Wings of Liberty player. Fun fact, GuMiho was actually the first random player in not Gumi GSL. That doesn't make any sense. But in GSL, I believe Season 1, I'm not sure if it was Season 1 and 2, he played random. And eventually settled on Terran, which was quite strong at the time. And I'm not sure the times have changed too much, but... and I do think it suits him. But, interesting fact, we've only had like 2 or 3 random players in the history of GSL. GuMiho being one of them. Of course, that was almost 15 years ago, but here we are. A full generation later. Reaper denying the queen. Gets the drone. There's a Zergling in the main. Wait, he didn't go for speed. Rogue? Rogue has 100 gas. Just banked. Did he cancel speed, or did he just not start it? What is he gonna do? It's a bit odd. It's not unheard of, but he can just go straight for the lair if he'd like. He started Zergling speed. I think he wanted to fake it, maybe, if the Reaper comes up. He started it and canceled it. What are you doing? What? My gabbers are flasted. Oh, Roach Horn's on the way. Rogue is mining gas again. I'm still not sure. He still hasn't spent any of it. He's not revealing the Zerglings. Somewhat amusingly, this would be the best. Oh, he just runs by. GuMiho calling his bluff. And indeed, the Reaper unfortunately gets killed, but... yeah, he didn't have Zergling speed. I think the Zergling was in GuMiho's base when it should have had speed finished, which may have inspired this particular move. As the Hellions run by in the... This is a message from the Hatchery Owners Association. This is private property, and you're trespassing. The sentence is death. Brenda, what? And who's going to enforce that? We're still working on that. The Hellions continue to get the damage done. A lot of mining time lost. A Marine here out of solidarity, and totally not the select all army key. The mining time lost is quite significant considering how many drones were on the run. You can see quite a dip in the income tab here. It's not like Rogue has a overwhelming economy either. He's just now going to be passing 50 drones. GuMiho's already got 43 SCVs and counting. So, again, some damage is done one way or another. And Rogue is slowed significantly. I'm still confused. He has 200 gas in the bank. He does not have Zergling speed. He's clearly going roaches, but... the fact he skipped out on Zergling speed, despite having the resources, is... either some next-level mind games or a surprising mistake. It feels like he was trying to... like, he was thinking about maybe a lair. The Banshee almost gets taken down, but... and he has the lair now. Where's the roach speed? You know, somewhat ironically, Rogue seems a bit slow on things this game. No roach speed? He's making 2 more gas geysers. No roach speed, no Zerg. There's the roach speed. But GuMiho already has double upgrades in production. He's already got 56 SCVs. He's spinning up his full 5 racks off 3 base. And he's dealing with just roaches. He's gonna know it too. The Banshee got in and it scouted pretty much everything relevant. Yeah, he sees the lair, he sees the roach one, and the evolution chamber timing. There's no reason he can't move out with 1-1 and those siege tanks. So it should be quite an effective strategy. I don't know if it'll be enough to do critical damage, but targeting the 4th base is almost always a good choice. The Marines and Hellions. The armory's about to complete. Where are the medevacs? GuMiho. I think GuMiho thinking the same thing at exactly the same time. Like, huh, feels like I'm missing something here. Well, the medevacs are here now. Changeling gets taken out easily. And Hellbats can be transformed, but this did give Rogue the warning he needed to put together some defenses. Stims the Marines. And Rogue a bit supply blocked, but has about half a dozen Overlords on the way, so. The Cloaked Banshees patrolling, heading for the 4th base now. There's already an Overseer there to backstop it. 1-1 about to complete for the Marines, but Combat Shield did just start, so without it, they're going to have a tough time dealing directly with the Roach Ravager. One Banshee knocked out of the sky, another one grazed by the Spore Crawler. Hive is already on the way. Despite all of this, it looks like Rogue will have one of the quickest possible hives, just after 8 minutes. Hellions holding on the edge of the creep. The drop at the back, gonna kill off several drones. Might be able to get the Spore and get out as well. Will do so. Banshee in the main. 7 drones dead. Hellions. I think he killed a queen with the Hellions of all things. Killing more drones. And he's just nickel and diamond Rogue here, who's got an Ultraless Cavern on the way. An incredibly bold move. But in this exact scenario, I think it might be one that could pay off. A very quick... Oh, in the pipe 5x5, am I right, boys? Changeling. Struggling to keep up. Also didn't get its combat shields, but, you know, who's paying attention? Huge Zergling counterattack. GuMiho has quite a wall up. He's going to spot the Zerglings. Well, in the most dramatic possible fashion. And this counterattack is intensely well timed. He's just going to go forward because going back is not worth the effort. The Zerglings may overrun the 3rd. He'll eventually clean it up with reinforcements. But this tank push is devastating. Almost loses a full medevac of Marines to Corrosive Bile. 10 SCVs dead. Rogue manages to evacuate his drones. Why is the Ultra Cavern here, Rogue? Why do you insist on doing this? Putting his key tech buildings in the most vulnerable... I can see an Evo chamber there, but the Ultra Cavern... It's quite a gamble. The tank push is coming together. Chitinous plating is halfway done. Ultras in the production tab. GuMiho with a severe supply lead. SCVs have to be pulled again. Another base taken down. The Ultras are revealed if he didn't already know about them. Queen's gonna get gunned down as GuMiho is tearing through everything. Those Ultras trying to find a place they can actually be useful. Another wave of Zerglings. He did get adrenal glands as well. Chitinous plating, a few seconds out. Melee attack as well. Looks like he's just going to come down the ramp. The Banelings underneath. The Marines are trying to stand their ground. Rogue is fighting a split second before Chitinous plating completes. I think it was still a pretty good fight for him. As GuMiho's supply. Oh, but the Corrosive Biles and the Siege tanks hitting the Ultras. The Corrosive Bile was on cooldown to try to fight here. The Bio Army chasing down the Ultra. But it does have its plating now. But the Ultra Cavern! Rogue! Why? Ultra speed is denied. Quite an important upgrade for closing the distance against the Terran army. Rogue, a bit of an own goal. Some questionable decisions this game. He's able to beat back the Terran army. But at what cost? He still has the drone count, but he has nowhere he can mine from, as GuMiho has just capitalized on that early momentum and kept Rogue from... The creep spread is non-existent. The Ultras are coming down the ramp, but they're caught between a rock and a hard place in the process. The Marauder count is growing dramatically, just making it harder and harder for the Ultras to get the job done. Still, though, they're crushing through because GuMiho only has +1 attack, which means the Ultras are mostly uncontested on the ground. The amount of combined firepower required is quite dramatic. But there's a planetary fortress down the center. The Banelings are rolling in. He's still gonna try to repair. The planetary kills an Ultralisk. And what is back at home to defend? There's nothing left. The drones. 1 Ultra. The planetary did die, but so did Rogue. GuMiho with a decisive victory. A bit of a misfire in game 2, but Rogue, it feels like just unable to cope with GuMiho's kind of bare bones harass early. Not sure what was going on with that early Zergling speed, kind of cancel, uncancel, but GuMiho knew he had an opportunity, and he certainly seized it. So between the full battle mech, I love it, the Battlecruiser battle mech, the battle mech, sounds dumb, but it isn't. GuMiho showing us a wide array of Terran strategies, not a single ghost, despite dealing with late-game Hive-Tech Zerg multiple times. The brute force Terran, still an effective strategy. So hopefully it made your day a little bit better. This was from the LiuLiu Cup, the grand finals. Well, the playoffs are happening. If you're watching this in the first few days, 1, thank you very much. And 2, make sure to check it out live if you get the opportunity. And if not, well, you can see the highlights here. Thank you to Saber for putting it on. Thousands of dollars on the line and the top players playing. Of course, I love it. And if you got the means and motivation, be awesome. Check out Patreon. Thank you to our Mule tier patrons for bringing in the most minerals. Big Jiggy, Dork, Mario, thank you very much. I'm glad you still enjoy. And thank you for watching. I hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. And I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.